When your mother's blessing and your betrayal worshipped my best friend's womb in the hospital while you abandoned me alone, you forgot one thing. You forgot that a single phone call to my father was enough to burn your throne and your pride to ashes, forcing you to your knees in total humiliation as these divorce papers end your sick, twisted masquerade forever. Before we start the story, comment down below which city or state you're from. I'd love to know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so this channel can keep growing. The morning sunlight piercing through the gaps in the bedroom curtains offered no warmth to Chloe. Instead, the rays seemed to strip away the shadows, exposing the suffocating loneliness in her chest. At 7 months pregnant, every flutter and kick of the baby in her womb should have been a shared source of joy. Yet, for Chloe, that tiny heartbeat was her only spiritual companion amidst the freezing indifference of her husband, Liam. Chloe winced softly as she tried to sit up from the bed. Her lower back felt as if it were being pulled down by heavy lead, a physical consequence of the life she was carrying. In the corner of the room, Liam was busy adjusting his tie in front of the large mirror. He looked sharp in a slim-fit navy blue dress shirt. However, the look in his eyes, caught in the mirror's reflection, left absolutely no room for his wife. "Liam," Chloe called out weakly. Her voice was raspy from lingering sleep and a sudden wave of morning sickness. Liam didn't turn around. He just cleared his throat briefly, his fingers nimbly knotting his tie with stiff precision. "What? Don't tell me you want me to make you something. I'm already running late." Chloe took a deep breath, trying to suppress the stinging pain rising in her throat. "Today is my routine prenatal checkup with Dr. Evans. I'm in my 3rd trimester now. The doctor said it's crucial to check the baby's position today. Could you please drop me off?" Liam's hand stopped moving for a second, but only so he could let out a harsh scoff. He turned to look at Chloe with a glare more suited for a boss reprimanding an employee over a fatal error. "Chloe, we've discussed this a million times. I have a massive coordination board meeting at the corporate office today. Richard is overseeing it personally. You know how important this project is for my career, right? Don't be selfish over a routine checkup you can easily take an Uber to." "I'm not being selfish, Liam, but I'm 7 months along. I get dizzy out of nowhere. I'm just scared something might happen on the road," Chloe replied, her voice trembling. She hoped Liam would notice the exhaustion etched into her face, or at least touch her swollen belly as a gesture of support. But that hope vanished when the bedroom door swung open without a knock. Martha, Chloe's mother-in-law who lived with them, marched in, wearing an expensive silk robe. Her face, always caked in heavy makeup, looked cynical. She stared at Chloe as if her daughter-in-law were a parasite blocking her son's path to success. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Chloe," whining first thing in the morning, Martha's shrill voice shattered the quiet of the room. "When I was pregnant with Liam, I was still working double shifts and carrying heavy groceries blocks away in the snow. None of this dramatic, drive-me-around nonsense. You just need to go to the clinic. Order a lift. You'll get there fine. Why must you hinder your husband's career?" Chloe looked down, gripping the bedsheets. "It's not about that, Martha. It's not about the ride. It's about support. Support is in prayers, not in the passenger seat of a car." Martha cut in sharply. She walked over to Liam, proudly patting her son's shoulder. "Liam is out there hustling to make money for you and your kid. You should be grateful you have a hardworking husband. Look at Jessica, your own best friend. She's an independent woman, running a successful boutique. She drives herself everywhere without a single complaint. Why can't you learn a little from her and stop being such a burden?" Hearing Jessica's name made Chloe's heart ache. Jessica had been her best friend since college, someone she trusted deeply. But lately, Jessica had felt increasingly distant and strange. Hearing her mother-in-law compare her to another woman right in front of her husband felt like rubbing salt into a fresh wound. Liam grabbed his leather briefcase from the vanity, seemingly fueled by his mother's words. "Mom is right. You're too spoiled, Chloe. I don't want to hear it. I can't take you. Figure it out yourself." Without a single gentle goodbye or a kiss on the forehead, Liam strode out of the room, followed by Martha, who was still muttering snide remarks about how soft modern women were. Chloe sat frozen on the edge of the bed. Her tears fell one by one, staining her maternity loungewear. The nausea in her stomach was replaced by a crushing tightness in her chest. She felt like a stranger in her own home. A house that should have been a safe haven now felt like a prison run by cruel wardens. She stood up slowly, dragging her feet toward the kitchen to get a glass of water. There, she saw Maria, the housekeeper who had been with them for 2 years, wiping down the dining table. Maria quickly approached when she saw Chloe's puffy eyes. "Mrs. Chloe, are you all right?" Maria whispered, as if terrified Martha might hear her from the living room. Chloe shook her head weakly, holding onto the edge of the counter for support. "I'm fine, Maria. Just a little dizzy. You need to eat. Earlier, Mrs. Martha forbade me from making your special oatmeal. She said you need to eat whatever is on the table so you stop acting spoiled, but I secretly hid your pregnancy protein shake in the bottom cabinet." Maria looked at Chloe with profound pity. As a silent witness to the daily life in that house, Maria knew exactly the emotional abuse Chloe endured from her husband and mother-in-law. Chloe smiled bitterly. "Thank you, Maria. Thank you for caring." The realization hit Chloe hard. In this house, a paid employee had more empathy than the people she called family. She thought of her father, Richard Sterling. If her father knew how his only daughter was being treated like worthless trash, a massive hurricane would obliterate Liam's career. But all this time, Chloe had hidden Liam's flaws from her father. She wanted to be a devoted wife. She wanted to protect her husband's dignity. But this morning, something inside Chloe cracked. The emotional pressure that had been building up for months finally reached its breaking point. She looked down at her churning stomach. The little one inside seemed to feel its mother's sorrow. Chloe couldn't keep living like this. If she couldn't rely on Liam, she had to rely on herself, but in a completely different way. Chloe went back to her bedroom. Ignoring her dizziness, she started getting ready. She put on her best designer maternity maxi dress and applied light makeup to her pale face, so she looked fresh. She refused to show up at the hospital looking like a victim. Grabbing her designer tote bag, she opened her drawer. Inside was an old business card given to her by her father, the direct contact for his executive fixer who handled emergencies. Chloe grabbed her phone. Her fingers trembled for a second before she typed a short message. She didn't call her dad to complain. Not yet. But she made a small decision she had always avoided out of fear of bruising Liam's ego. Chloe ordered a premium private medical transport to pick her up. It was a highly expensive service, and the bill would go directly to Liam's corporate email as part of his executive family health benefits, a position he only held because of her father's influence. As she walked out of the room, Martha was sitting on the living room sofa, sipping tea. The older woman looked Chloe up and down with a condescending sneer. "Where are you going dressed up like that?" Chloe didn't stop. She kept walking toward the front door with her head held high. Though her legs felt heavy, she replied, "To the hospital, Martha. By myself. Just like you and Liam wanted." "Good to see you finally know your place," Martha snapped back sarcastically. Chloe opened the front door. Outside, a sleek, black luxury SUV was waiting. Not a regular Uber. She climbed into the car without looking back. Inside the cool, air-conditioned vehicle, Chloe gripped her phone tightly. She decided she wasn't just going to get her baby checked today. She was going to investigate a suspicion that had been haunting the corners of her mind. One thing was certain. Starting this second, Chloe was done being the obedient wife to protect the feelings of people who never protected hers. Sitting in the back of the black SUV gliding smoothly through the city streets, Chloe felt a strange vibration in her chest. It was no longer the weakening tremor of sorrow from this morning, but a sharp, undeniable beat of anxiety. Her decision to use Liam's corporate account was a small declaration that she still had fangs, even if right now she felt like a bird with broken wings. She stared out the window, watching the upscale storefronts blur by, trying to distract herself from the lower abdominal cramps brought on by unrelenting stress. Upon arriving at the hospital's drop-off zone, the chauffeur respectfully opened her door. Chloe stepped out, feeling the blast of AC from the lobby hitting her flushed skin. However, her footsteps abruptly locked right in front of the main automatic doors. Her eyes were fixated on a white sedan she knew all too well, parked just steps away in the VIP spot. The license plate, the custom mirror accessories, even the tiny scratch on the rear bumper she had accidentally made last year. It was Liam's car. Chloe's heart hammered against her ribs so violently she could barely breathe. Didn't Liam say he had a massive coordination meeting with her father? Didn't he yell at her this morning because she was supposedly distracting him from his work? Her mind raced. Was Liam sick? Did a medical emergency happen that forced him here without telling her? A foolish spark of hope briefly crossed her mind. Maybe Liam felt guilty and decided to surprise her at her appointment. Chloe quickened her pace, ignoring the heavy ache in her back. She entered the busy lobby. Her eyes darted wildly, searching for her husband. But what she found a few moments later didn't just shatter her hope. It obliterated every ounce of her dignity as a wife. Down the corridor leading to the OB/GYN clinic, Chloe saw them. Liam was standing there, but he wasn't alone. On his right, Martha was walking with a glowing face. A beaming smile Chloe had never once seen directed at her radiated from the older woman. And on Liam's left, a woman wearing a pastel silk maternity dress was walking with delicate, careful steps. It was Jessica, her best friend, her confidant, the person who listened to her cry about Liam's coldness, the woman who, just last night, had texted Chloe wishing her a smooth delivery. The world stopped spinning. Chloe hid behind a large concrete pillar near the pharmacy waiting area. Her body shook violently. From 30 feet away, she witnessed a scene that tore her soul apart. Liam had his arm wrapped possessively around Jessica's waist, as if terrified she might trip. Every now and then, Liam would whisper something into Jessica's ear, making her giggle and rest her head on his shoulder. It was a level of intimacy Chloe hadn't felt in months. "Careful, honey. Just take it slow." Liam's voice echoed faintly but clearly enough to pierce Chloe's ears. His tone was so gentle, so full of care, the exact same tone he used when he asked her father for her hand in marriage. Martha chimed in, rubbing Jessica's back affectionately. "Yes, Jessica, you have to take excellent care of your baby. This is the grandchild I have been praying for. Don't exhaust yourself like Chloe, who does nothing but complain all day." Chloe slapped both hands over her mouth to muffle her own sob. Tears streamed down her cheeks like a broken dam. The pain wasn't just about being cheated on. It was about being betrayed by the entire system she thought of as family. How could her husband, her mother-in-law, and her best friend unite to stab her in the back right when she was carrying the child of that very same man? Nausea hit her again, much harder this time, forcing Chloe to lean against the cold hospital wall to keep from collapsing. Through the fog of her panic, a deep voice called her name. "Chloe, are you all right?" Chloe turned her pale, tear-stained face. Standing before her was Dr. Evans, her senior OB/GYN specialist. The middle-aged man in his crisp white coat looked genuinely alarmed. Dr. Evans had known her family for years. He was a close friend of Richard Sterling. "Doctor," Chloe tried to catch her breath, her voice choking. Dr. Evans immediately grabbed Chloe's arm, helping her into a nearby waiting chair. "You are incredibly pale, Chloe. Your breathing is shallow. This is terrible for your baby. What happened? Where is Liam? I thought I just saw him down the hall." Chloe just looked down. Her tears dripped onto the designer bag resting on her lap. She couldn't form the words. Seeing her reaction, Dr. Evans, who had dealt with countless family dramas in his decades of practice, instantly realized something was terribly wrong. He glanced down the corridor where Liam, Martha, and Jessica had just disappeared into another specialist's examining room. "Chloe, come with me to my private office right now. We aren't doing this in the general clinic. You need a quiet place," Dr. Evans said with an authoritative yet protective tone. He signaled a nurse to bring a wheelchair. Chloe numbly complied as she was rolled into his private suite. Inside the soundproof room, Dr. Evans handed her a cup of warm water. "Drink this. Calm down. You are pregnant, Chloe. The extreme stress you're experiencing right now could be fatal to your baby. I'm not speaking as your doctor right now, but as your father's friend. What exactly is going on?" Chloe drank the water, her hands still shaking. "They are out there, Dr. Evans. Liam, Martha, and Jessica. They are here for Jessica's prenatal checkup. They called it the grandchild they've been praying for." Dr. Evans let out a long sigh, his jaw tightening. As a physician, he knew perfectly well that Jessica was also a patient here. but he was bound by HIPAA laws not to disclose patient information. Even so, seeing Chloe utterly destroyed awakened his own paternal instincts. You have to be strong, Chloe. If you can't fight for yourself, fight for the life growing inside you. Do not let their betrayal kill your hope, Dr. Evans stated firmly. Chloe looked up at him. Do not let them kill your hope. The words echoed in her mind. The paralyzing grief slowly began to mutate into a cold, razor-sharp determination. She wiped her tears away aggressively, leaving only the burning embers of rage behind her bloodshot eyes. I want today's examination to be extremely detailed, doctor. I need all my medical records since day one. And if possible, I need your help confirming something without breaking the law, Chloe whispered, her voice finally steadying. After an emotionally exhausting checkup, Chloe walked out of Dr. Evans' office. She didn't leave the hospital immediately. She stood in a dim corner of the corridor, watching the door to the room where Jessica was. Her brain was already working faster than her pain. She pulled out her phone and opened the camera app. With slow steps, she moved toward the parking garage, hiding behind a large delivery van. She knew they would be coming out soon. Sure enough, moments later, Liam walked out with his arm around Jessica, while Martha walked beside them, holding the ultrasound printouts with a look of absolute victory. Chloe hit record. She documented every second of their affection. Liam kissing Jessica's forehead before opening the car door for her, and Martha hugging Jessica warmly. The video was undeniable proof of an unforgivable betrayal. After the white sedan drove off, Chloe stopped crying completely. She walked back to the lobby and signaled the chauffeur of the black SUV. Sitting in the back seat, she no longer stared out the window with empty eyes. She opened her contacts and found a name. Rachel. Rachel, I need a massive favor. Clear your schedule tonight. We need to talk legal strategy, Chloe said coldly the second the call connected. Chloe hung up. She opened her phone's gallery, looking at the wedding photo of her and Liam that had been her wallpaper for years. Without a second thought, she changed it to a pitch-black screen. She knew going home this afternoon meant stepping back into a wolf's den. But she wouldn't walk in unprepared. She uploaded the videos to a hidden folder, synced directly to her personal cloud storage. A small precaution she knew Liam, in his arrogance, would never think to check. The cold, antiseptic-smelling hospital floor seemed to seep into Chloe's pores, freezing her blood. Behind the concrete pillar that had been her hiding spot, Chloe slid down slowly. Her aching back scraped against the rough concrete, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the sledgehammer hitting her chest. She hugged her swollen belly, desperately trying to shield her baby from the toxic conversation flowing just yards away from her. There, don't move too much, Jessica. Remember what the doctor said, this pregnancy is incredibly precious. Martha's voice was disgustingly sweet, filled with a protective warmth Chloe had never received. Chloe squeezed her eyes shut. Hot, searing tears leaked out. She heard Jessica's soft giggle, her best friend sounding so gentle yet so lethal. I'm fine, Martha. Liam takes amazing care of me. Just a little morning sickness. Of course I take care of you, Liam chimed in. Her husband's voice was absolute. Not a trace of guilt or hesitation. You just focus on your health and our baby. Let me handle the house so Chloe doesn't stress you out. Then came the phrase, the final nail in the coffin of Chloe's trust. Thank God, Martha murmured with a terrifyingly genuine gratitude. I am just so happy. You are truly the ideal daughter-in-law, Jessica. Beautiful, independent, and most importantly, you're bringing pride to this family by carrying Liam's child. Not like that other one. Being pregnant is just an excuse for her to be a dramatic burden. I can't wait until you two are officially married. Chloe shoved both hands over her mouth. The sob trapped in her throat made her chest feel like it was going to explode. Ideal daughter-in-law. The words looped in her head like a broken record. So, she wasn't just being cheated on, she was being systematically replaced. Her mother-in-law didn't just hate her, she was literally setting the dining table for another woman. The world spun violently. The fluorescent hospital lights felt blindingly bright, stabbing her eyes and triggering a massive migraine. Oxygen felt scarce. The image of Liam holding Jessica and Martha's triumphant smile were the last things her brain processed before her vision faded to black. Chloe? Chloe! The voice was distant, but the hands gripping her shoulders were real. Chloe blinked, trying to focus her eyes. Dr. Evans stood over her, his face pale with extreme worry. He had just stepped out of another room and found his patient slumped on the floor behind a pillar. "Doctor." Chloe's voice was a shattered whisper. "Come on, let's get you up. I've got you." Dr. Evans urgently flagged down a nurse. They helped Chloe stand, but her legs felt like jelly. She couldn't support her own weight. The emotional shock had drained every ounce of her physical energy. She was wheeled back into Dr. Evans' suite. Inside the quiet room, Dr. Evans immediately checked her blood pressure and heart rate. His face hardened, looking at the monitor. "Your blood pressure is dangerously low, Chloe, and your heart rate is erratic. You are in severe emotional shock," he said, his tone low but firm. He looked at Chloe, who was leaning back in the exam chair with empty eyes. "What did you see out there?" "I saw Liam with another woman, and his mother." Chloe stared at the blank white wall. Her tears had dried, leaving stiff, salty tracks on her cheeks. They called her the ideal daughter-in-law, doctor. They were celebrating her pregnancy. "She's my best friend." Dr. Evans let out a heavy sigh. He put his stethoscope down and sat across from her. As someone who knew Richard Sterling's family, he felt a deep moral obligation. "Chloe, listen to me. Your emotional state is critical right now. Your baby needs a stable supply of nutrients and oxygen. If you stay in this state of shock, you are risking your child's life." The doctor paused, giving her space to breathe. "I can give you vitamins and supplements to strengthen the pregnancy, but that's a Band-Aid. The real disease is out there. If you bottle this up and go back to that house without a safety net, I fear the acute stress will cause a miscarriage." Chloe slowly turned her head to look at him. The emptiness in her eyes was gradually replaced by a bitter, sharp awareness. "So I can't afford to be weak, doctor. You don't just need to be strong. You need to physically distance yourself from the source of the stress," Dr. Evans emphasized. "For now, I am putting it in your medical chart that you require strict bed rest and specialized monitoring. I will email a copy of this directly to your private email, not the joint family account Liam has access to. You will need legal proof that your health deteriorated due to environmental abuse." Chloe nodded slowly. She understood his implication. Information was a weapon, and right now, she held the ultimate trump card. She knew everything, and Liam and Martha had no idea she knew. After receiving an IV vitamin drip and calming down, Chloe asked to sit in the private waiting area before leaving. She checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Liam. He was probably calling just to make sure she wasn't at the same hospital, or simply to fulfill his performative duties as a husband. Busy, Chloe didn't text back. Instead, she opened her mobile banking app. She checked her personal savings money she had saved from her father's generous allowances over the years, money she had never told Liam about. She then opened a high-end corporate housing app. Her fingers flew across the screen. She booked a luxury short-term condo in the Upper East Side, far from their house but close to her father's headquarters. She booked it under her real name but used a brand-new burner phone number she had just activated. She knew this was risky. If Liam checked their joint accounts or tracked her location, she'd be exposed before her grand plan began. But staying under the same roof as the ideal daughter-in-law and her toxic mother-in-law was a far greater risk to her baby. Chloe stood up. Though she still felt a bit wobbly, she smoothed out her dress, looking at her reflection in the compact mirror from her purse. She looked years older, but a new, ruthless line of determination had formed at the corner of her mouth. "Maria," Chloe called her housekeeper, her voice eerily calm and devoid of emotion. "Pack a small duffel bag with my clothes and my important documents. Hide it in the trunk of my car this afternoon while Martha is taking her nap. Make absolutely sure no one sees you." Chloe hung up without waiting for an answer. She walked out of Dr. Evans' office, passing the corridor that had just witnessed the murder of her heart. She didn't look back toward the OB/GYN clinic where Liam and Jessica likely still were. Her day wasn't over. She had one more mission before the sun set, making sure this betrayal was paid for in blood. Chloe's steps felt impossibly heavy as she walked up the driveway to her home. What used to feel like a warm sanctuary now looked like the gates to a conspiracy. The scent of the blooming hydrangeas she usually loved now made her nauseous, reminding her of the fake perfection she inhaled every day. The image of Liam holding Jessica in the hospital hallway played on a loop behind her eyelids like a horror movie. Every time she blinked, she saw Martha's joyful laugh welcoming another woman's pregnancy while she struggled to keep her own baby alive. The front door swung open before Chloe even reached for the knob. Liam stood there, loosening his tie, his face deliberately arranged to look exhausted. There was no trace of the tender affection he had showered on Jessica hours ago, only a cold, flat stare reserved for his legal wife. "Just getting back?" Liam asked dismissively. He walked past Chloe toward the living room sofa, tossing his leather briefcase carelessly. "I am absolutely drained. That meeting was brutal. Your father is demanding way too much. Every report had to be detailed down to the last decimal. My head is splitting." Chloe stood frozen in the doorway, her back to him. She closed her eyes, feeling the sharp, stabbing pain in her chest. A meeting with my father. She wanted so badly to spin around, hurl his briefcase at his face, and scream that she saw him coddling his mistress at the hospital. But Dr. Evans' warning echoed in her head. She had to stay calm for the baby. "Is that so, Liam? You must be exhausted," Chloe replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. She turned slowly to look at him, resting his eyes on the couch. "Yeah, the office ran smoothly. Just tiring," Liam answered shortly, clearly having no desire to converse. Before Chloe could say another word, Martha stomped in from the kitchen. Her face, which had been glowing with joy around Jessica that morning, immediately contorted into a bitter scowl upon seeing Chloe. "Oh, the queen finally arrives," Martha sneered, putting her hands on her hips. "Must be nice walking in at this hour. Do you realize this house is a disaster? Maria can't do everything by herself. What is your job as a wife exactly? Joyriding to the hospital in your husband's luxury corporate car while he works his fingers to the bone?" Chloe stared at her mother-in-law, her eyes unreadable. Working to the bone? Or pale because he's terrified his secret will come out? Chloe thought bitterly. "I had my prenatal checkup, Martha. My blood pressure dropped at the clinic," Chloe said quietly. "Oh, please. The classic excuse," Martha shrieked, her voice pitching an octave higher. "Women back in my day could have a migraine and still sweep, mop, and cook a full roast for dinner. Liam pays for your lifestyle, puts a roof over your head, and you can't even do the bare minimum. Look at the dust on the vanity in the guest room. It's thick. Go clean it right now before you even think about resting. Stop acting like a spoiled brat." Liam didn't defend her at all. He actually leaned into it, acting as if Chloe's voice was an annoying disruption to his peace. "Just do what Mom says, Chloe. I'm starving, and Mom said you haven't prepped anything for dinner. I just walked through the door, Liam." "And I'm sick," Chloe said, trying to hold on to her last shred of sanity. "Sickness is in the mind," Martha cut in sharply. "Enough talking back. Go clean the guest room right now. I don't want to see a speck of dust in there. If it's not spotless, don't expect to sit at the dinner table tonight." Chloe felt like all the oxygen had been vacuumed from the room. She looked at Liam, desperately hoping he would remember she was carrying his child. Instead, Liam pulled out his phone and smiled at the screen, probably a text from Jessica, completely ignoring his wife's existence. Trembling, her stomach tightening with stress cramps, Chloe walked toward the kitchen to grab the cleaning supplies. As she passed the dark hallway near the laundry room, a hand gently pulled her into the shadows. Maria stood there, her face etched with deep concern. In her hand, she held a small covered plate and a glass of warm water mixed with honey. "Mrs. Chloe, please eat this quickly," Maria whispered, glancing nervously toward the living room, terrified Martha or Liam would catch them. "Maria," but Martha forbade. "Shh, don't listen to her. She was horribly cruel today. She told me not to cook for you so you'd learn to be independent. But I couldn't stand it. You're heavily pregnant." Maria placed the plate on top of the turned-off washing machine. "I secretly made your favorite mac and cheese. Just eat a little so you have some energy. They won't know. They're busy out front." Chloe looked at the plate, her eyes welling with tears. In this massive house, only the housekeeper treated her like a human being. She shoveled the food into her mouth with shaking hands. Every bite felt like swallowing glass, not because of the taste, but because she was forced to eat like a thief in her own home. "Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much," Chloe whispered, wiping a tear that fell onto the plate. "Of course, ma'am. The bag you asked for is in the trunk. I slipped it in when Mrs. Martha was on a phone call in the backyard. I covered it with the car tarp so no one will see, Maria reported, her eyes showing fierce loyalty. Chloe nodded. Her decision was absolute. Her physical hunger might be slightly sated by the food, but her spiritual hunger for justice was burning brighter than ever. As she chewed, she tuned her ears. She heard Liam's low chuckle from the living room, mingling with Martha's voice praising how incredible Liam's career was going. Chloe's heart turned to ice. She remembered Dr. Evans' order to distance herself from the toxic stress. She couldn't just stand by and be their punching bag anymore. If they thought she was weak and spoiled, she was about to deliver a shock they couldn't possibly comprehend. After eating, Chloe washed her plate in utter silence. She walked back into the hallway holding a duster and a damp cloth, pretending she was obeying Martha. She walked into the guest room, shut the door tightly, and locked it. Chloe didn't touch the dust on the vanity. Instead, she sat on the floor, leaning against the bed frame, and pulled out the burner phone she had tucked into her bra. The dim light illuminated her expressionless face. She opened her cloud storage app, confirming the hospital video had uploaded perfectly. Then she opened her contacts. She found the one name she had always avoided, asking for help to protect Liam's pride. Kevin. Kevin was a senior auditor at Liam's corporate office. He had a crush on Chloe years ago, but had remained a respectful, honest friend. Chloe knew Kevin had full access to the financial ledgers of Liam's division. Chloe typed a quick message. Kevin, can we talk off the record? I need your help verifying some of Liam's out-of-state corporate expenses from last month. Please keep this completely confidential, even from my father. She hit send. She knew this was the beginning of a massive explosion. Involving Kevin meant Liam's professional facade was in jeopardy. But when she heard Martha screaming from the hallway, demanding to know why it was taking so long to dust a room, Chloe felt zero fear. She stood up, smoothed her hair, and unlocked the door. Martha was standing right there, her face red with anger. "Were you taking a nap in there?" Martha barked. Chloe looked her mother-in-law dead in the eye, something she had never dared to do before. "No, Martha. I was just making sure everything was cleaned down to the deepest roots, because very soon, this house is going to be completely scrubbed clean of everything disgusting in it." Chloe walked past Martha, leaving the older woman stunned by the sudden, icy tone. Chloe walked to her bedroom, passing Liam, who was still glued to his phone. Without a word, she went to her secret drawer and pulled out a small folder. The property deed for the house, a wedding gift from her father that she had stupidly allowed to be put under both her and Liam's names. She needed to retrieve it before the sun rose tomorrow. The glow of Chloe's phone broke the darkness of the bedroom, a room that now felt like a grave to her soul. After her cold confrontation with Martha last night, Chloe couldn't sleep. Her own words about cleaning the house to the roots kept echoing, giving her a false sense of armor against the incoming storm. But when a name popped up on her screen, Jessica, Chloe's heart stopped for a second before accelerating into overdrive. "Hey, Chloe, babe, are you awake?" Jessica's voice was disgustingly cheerful, a stark contrast to the hurricane inside Chloe's chest. Chloe took a deep breath, fighting to keep her voice from cracking. "I am, Jess. What's up this early?" "Oh, I was just so worried. Liam told me yesterday you were feeling sick and had to go to the hospital. I'm so sorry I couldn't visit. Things at the boutique have been absolutely insane," Jessica said, her tone dripping with fake sympathy. Chloe closed her eyes. Insane at the boutique. The image of Jessica giggling in Liam's arms at the hospital flashed in her mind. Her best friend was putting on an Oscar-worthy performance right to her face, hours after making out with her husband in public. "I'm feeling better, Jess. Thanks for checking in," Chloe replied shortly. "Thank God. Oh, guess what? A huge client just gave me a massive bonus because we hit our targets. Look, I just texted you a picture. It's so gorgeous. I feel so incredibly lucky this month." Chloe pulled the phone away from her ear as the notification chimed. She opened the text. A photo loaded. Jessica's flawless wrist adorned with an elegant white gold bracelet encrusted with diamonds. Chloe froze. She squinted at the details of the jewelry. Her memory rocketed back to 6 months ago when she found a brochure for a high-end jeweler in Liam's suit jacket. Liam had smoothly lied, claiming it was for a corporate client who needed a gift for his wife. Chloe clearly remembered Liam complaining about working late for days just to keep that client happy. Lightning struck Chloe's brain. This didn't start 6 months ago. It had been going on repeatedly. Every late night at the office, every out-of-state conference, every luxury client gift she had seen, they were all puzzle pieces, snapping into a horrifying picture. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment because Chloe was pregnant. This was a calculated, deep-rooted affair. Isn't it stunning? I feel like the most loved woman in the world, Jessica's voice returned, carrying a veiled, triumphant smirk. Yeah, it's stunning, Jess. Fits you perfectly, Chloe whispered, her free hand gripping the bedsheets so hard her knuckles turned white. You definitely deserve everything you've worked so hard for. After hanging up, Chloe felt completely numb. She slipped out of bed, dragging her feet to the bedroom door. She needed a glass of water for her throat, which felt like sandpaper. But as she approached the dining room, hushed voices from the kitchen stopped her in her tracks. Shh, keep your voice down, she might hear. It was Martha. Chloe pressed herself against the wall, holding her breath. Relax, Mom. She's still in bed, probably exhausted from her little drama yesterday. Liam's arrogant voice was followed by the clinking of a coffee spoon. Jessica is obsessed with the bracelet, Mom. She said it makes her even more motivated to take care of the baby. As she should. Jessica is a remarkable woman, not like your wife, who does nothing but ride her father's coattails. I told you from the start, I preferred Jessica. If Richard Sterling didn't have the power to make you a VP overnight, I would never have let you marry Chloe. Martha scoffed loudly. Just be patient, Mom. Soon, all the joint assets will be legally secure. Once Jessica's baby is born, we'll have a rock-solid excuse to slowly phase Chloe out. Even Richard won't be able to do anything if we hold evidence proving Chloe is an unstable, incompetent mother, Liam replied with a sinister tone Chloe had never heard before. Chloe's world collapsed completely. She always thought Martha was just a harsh, old-fashioned mother-in-law. Turns out, the woman was the grand architect of her suffering. Her mother-in-law sanctioned, supported, and likely facilitated her husband's affair, entirely out of financial greed and personal hatred. Chloe didn't shed a single tear. Her eyes dried up, replaced by a cold, burning inferno. She felt like an absolute idiot who had been hugging a cactus while smiling. All her devotion to Liam, all her patience with Martha, it was all for nothing. They didn't see her as a human being. They saw her as a stepping stone to power. Chloe walked back to her bedroom, her footsteps completely silent. She sat at the vanity, staring at her reflection. She wasn't the weak Chloe anymore. She was Richard Sterling's daughter, the man Liam feared most in the corporate world. Chloe grabbed her burner phone. She didn't text Kevin just to ask questions anymore. She forwarded the photo of Jessica's bracelet to him, followed by a direct order. Kevin, pull the records for Liam's corporate Amex on November 12th of last year. I need the receipt from the jewelry store matching this photo. I know this breaches protocol, but I promise your job is 100% safe under my father's protection. Chloe knew she was playing with fire. Asking an auditor to leak corporate financial data could lead to legal trouble if Liam found out, but she had no choice. She had to prove her husband wasn't just a cheating scumbag, but a corporate thief using company money to fund his mistress. Suddenly, a loud banging hit the bedroom door. Chloe, get out here. Make breakfast for Liam. He has a massive meeting this morning, Martha yelled. Chloe took a deep breath, locked her phone, and hid it in the safest spot. She stood up, straightened her clothes, and plastered on the face of the obedient wife they expected. Before opening the door, she grabbed a small envelope containing the keys to the luxury condo she had booked. Chloe walked out, looking at Martha with a faint, seemingly genuine smile laced with invisible poison. Yes, Martha, I'll make it right now. Liam needs to eat a lot, so he's strong enough for what's coming today, she said calmly. As Chloe walked to the kitchen, she intentionally dropped a spare house key in front of Liam's door, leaving it there with no intention of picking it up. A tiny breadcrumb designed to make Liam feel superior, thinking his wife was becoming clumsy. In reality, it was the first distraction of her master plan. The nausea hitting her this morning wasn't just biological. It was the toxic residue of Liam and Martha's kitchen conversation she had eavesdropped on last night. Knowing her husband wasn't just cheating, but had his mother's full blessing to replace her, made every square inch of this house feel like a tightening noose. Chloe stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at a stranger. Her cheekbones were sharp, dark circles carved deep into her pale, paper-thin skin. She had just finished throwing up bile when the doorbell rang with a sharp, authoritative buzz. A knock she recognized instantly. Not a courier, not Liam's coworker. It was Rachel. Chloe dragged herself to the living room. Martha was already at the open door, glaring at the woman standing on the porch with absolute disdain. "I'm here for Chloe. I'm her best friend." Rachel's voice was sharp and commanding the exact tone of a high-power corporate litigator used to annihilating opponents in a courtroom. "Chloe isn't feeling well. If it's not an emergency, leave her alone. She needs to rest so she stops acting so spoiled," Martha snapped, physically blocking the doorway. Rachel didn't flinch. She glanced past Martha and saw Chloe emerging from the hallway. When their eyes met, the bright, professional smile on Rachel's face vanished, replaced by genuine horror. Pushing past Martha as if she owned the place, Rachel marched inside. "Chloe. My God, Chloe. What happened to you?" Rachel gasped, her voice thick with worry. She grabbed Chloe by the shoulders, studying her face intensely. "You look like you haven't eaten in a week. Are you sick?" Chloe managed a weak, painful smile. "I'm fine, Rach. Just some pregnancy nausea." "Don't lie to me." Rachel shot a lethal glare at Martha, who was hovering by the door with a sour face. "Ma'am, I need to speak privately with Chloe in her room." "Don't take all day. She still hasn't finished the laundry in the back," Martha huffed before storming off to the backyard. Rachel pulled Chloe into the bedroom and locked the door. She guided Chloe to sit on the edge of the bed. The room that was supposed to be a sanctuary of marital love now felt as cold as a morgue. Rachel knelt in front of her, holding Chloe's ice-cold hands. "Chloe, I am an attorney. I see people destroyed by life every single day. But looking at you right now, this isn't just pregnancy sickness. What is going on? Is Liam pulling his crap again?" Chloe stayed silent for a moment. The emotional dam she had built at the hospital finally broke in front of her friend. Through trembling words and suppressed sobs, Chloe poured everything out. She told Rachel about the hospital, about Jessica, the diamond bracelet on Instagram, and the horrific plot Martha and Liam had hatched to steal custody and replace her. Rachel listened without interrupting. Her jaw clenched tight, and her grip on Chloe's hands turned ironclad. As a legal professional, she dealt with human garbage daily. But this betrayal, executed while her best friend was heavily pregnant, ignited an absolute inferno in her. "Animals?" Rachel hissed, once Chloe finished. "Liam and that witch of a mother have zero conscience. They used your kindness. They used your father's executive power. And now they want to throw you in the trash." Chloe looked down, tears hitting her hands. "I feel so stupid, Rach. I stayed for the baby. I stayed to keep the family whole. And my own family was designing my execution." Rachel stood up and paced the small room. "Chloe, listen to me closely. Crying will not stop them. Crying only makes you look weaker, which is exactly what they want. They want to paint you as mentally unstable, so they have legal grounds to kick you out and take full custody of your child." Hearing the word custody, Chloe flinched violently. Her head snapped up, staring at Rachel with eyes flashing with both terror and raw fury. "They will never take my baby. Then we fight," Rachel stated coldly. She sat back down. "But you can't go to war empty-handed. Your testimony means nothing in family court. Liam has a massive VP title at your dad's company. He will hire spin doctors to twist the narrative." Rachel dug into her designer tote and pulled out an iPad, taking quick notes. "Starting right now, you stop being the victim and you become the predator. I need physical evidence, photos of them together, recordings of their conversations in this house, and every financial transaction we can find." "Recordings? Isn't that illegal in your own home?" Chloe asked hesitantly. "This is about the survival of you and your child, Chloe. In a divorce involving abuse and abandonment, evidence is king. You said they gossip in the kitchen or living room when they think you're asleep? Exploit that." Rachel reached back into her bag and pulled out a small, innocent-looking teddy bear keychain. "This isn't a toy. It's a voice-activated audio recorder. The battery lasts for days, and the audio is crystal clear. Plant this where they conspire. Chloe took the object with shaking hands. She stared at the little bear, realizing this was the declaration of a shadow war. Fear gripped her. What if Liam found it? What if Martha got suspicious? But the memory of Liam kissing Jessica's forehead and calling her the ideal daughter-in-law obliterated her doubts. "I'll do it," Chloe whispered, her tone turning glacial. "Good. And one more thing." Rachel looked her dead in the eye. "Do not change your behavior. Be the sweet, weak, obedient Chloe they expect. Let them think they hold all the cards, because that's when narcissists get sloppy and confess their own crimes." Chloe nodded. She felt a new, terrifying power crawling through the cracks of her broken heart. It wasn't the strength to endure anymore, it was the power to destroy. That afternoon, as Rachel was leaving, Chloe walked her to the front porch. In the distance, Liam's white sedan pulled into the driveway. Liam stepped out, his face bright and cheerful, a nauseating contrast for Chloe, who knew exactly where that happiness came from. "Who's that, Chloe? A friend?" Liam asked, eyeing Rachel's expensive tailored suit and aura of wealth. "Yes, Liam. Rachel, an old college friend," Chloe replied flatly. Rachel gave Liam the fakest, most professional corporate smile Chloe had ever witnessed. "A pleasure to meet you, Liam. Chloe has told me so much about your incredible support during her pregnancy." Liam looked slightly awkward, but quickly puffed out his chest. "Of course. It's my duty as a husband." Chloe watched Rachel get into her Porsche and drive off. She walked back inside. Liam headed straight for the living room, yelling for his mother to tell her about a new corporate project. Chloe didn't go to the kitchen to fetch him a drink. She went to the downstairs bathroom. With swift, silent movements, she attached the teddy bear recorder to the underside of the living room console table, a hidden blind spot right where Martha and Liam loved to sit and gossip at night. Adjusting it securely, Chloe whispered to herself, "Say whatever you want tonight. I'll be listening to every single word." Chloe stood up and walked out of the room just as Liam turned around. She flashed him the sweetest, most genuine-looking smile she could muster. Meanwhile, inside the pocket of her maternity robe, her fingers gripped her burner phone, waiting for a text from Kevin that would blow her husband's financial crimes wide open. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the living room sounded like a sledgehammer in Chloe's brain. After planting the recorder under the console table last night, sleep wasn't a relaxing activity anymore, it was an exhausting state of hypervigilance. She felt like a spy in her own home, a role she never imagined playing when she said her vows in front of her father years ago. Every time Liam or Martha walked past that table, Chloe's heart leaped into her throat, terrified her game would be exposed before she could launch her counterattack. But the tension peaked during the blazing hot afternoon. While Liam was supposedly at the corporate office for a crucial board meeting he wouldn't shut up about, the front door swung open violently. Chloe, who was sitting at the dining table, rubbing her cramping stomach, jolted. She saw Martha strutting in with a massive grin. Holding onto Martha's arm was a woman wearing oversized designer sunglasses and an obscenely expensive lace maternity dress. "Come on in, sweetie. Don't be shy. This is your future house, too." Martha's voice dripped with honey, a tone she usually reserved only for Liam or when discussing Richard Sterling's fortune. Chloe stood up slowly, gripping the edge of the dining table. The nausea she had fought off all morning surged back, mixing with the boiling rage in her chest. What kind of sheer audacity allowed them to bring his mistress into her legal domain? "Martha, what is the meaning of this?" Chloe asked, her voice low and sharp. Jessica took off her sunglasses, looking at Chloe with an unreadable expression. There was a tiny flash of guilt, instantly smothered by thick layers of arrogance. "Hey, Chloe, sorry to drop by unannounced." Martha insisted I come over, because she had some amazing snacks here. "Don't call her Martha. She's my mother-in-law, not yours," Chloe interrupted, her icy tone making Jessica flinch. Martha immediately stepped in front of Jessica, acting like she was guarding the crown jewels. "Excuse me, Chloe? Watch your mouth. Jessica is an honored guest. She is carrying my precious grandchild. Her baby is highly sensitive, unlike yours that just causes you to whine 24/7. Martha turned to Jessica with a massive fake smile. "Sit down, honey. The sofa is much softer. Chloe, get to the kitchen and make some fresh squeezed orange juice for Jessica. Actual oranges, no store-bought syrup. Jessica can't have preservatives. Oh, and slice up those organic apples I bought. Chloe stood paralyzed. She stared at her mother-in-law, then shifted her gaze to Jessica, who was now lounging comfortably on the living room sofa, the very sofa Chloe had lovingly picked out when they first bought the house. "I am not a maid, Martha," Chloe said quietly but firmly, "and Jessica is not a guest worthy of being served in this house." "Excuse me?" Martha's eyes bugged out. She marched toward Chloe, jabbing a finger in her face. "You are a useless burden of a wife. Liam breaks his back working. I run this household, and now you refuse to serve an honored guest? Get to the kitchen." Jessica dramatically rubbed her belly, playing the victim. "It's fine, Martha. If Chloe doesn't want to, I'll just go home. I'm a little dizzy and thirsty, but I don't want to cause a scene." "No, you are staying right here," Martha screamed at Chloe. Her voice softened as she turned to Jessica. "Wait a minute, sweetie. Liam will be home any second. He won't be happy seeing his lazy wife treating you like this." Right on cue, Liam's white sedan pulled into the driveway. He walked through the door seconds later. He looked shocked to see Jessica there, but the shock quickly melted into a dopey, lovesick grin he couldn't hide. But when he saw the tension between his mother and Chloe, his face hardened instantly. "What's going on here?" Liam asked, walking straight to Jessica and ignoring his pale wife standing by the dining table. "It's Chloe. Liam," Martha whined, faking distress. "I just asked her to make some juice for Jessica because she felt faint. But your wife started insulting her, said she doesn't belong here. Look at poor Jessica. She's pale from the stress." Liam whipped around to face Chloe, his eyes blazing with fury. "Chloe, what the hell is wrong with you? Jessica is a guest. She is pregnant. Why are you acting like a psycho? She's your mistress, Liam. And you brought her into my house right in front of my face," Chloe screamed, her defenses finally crumbling as tears of sheer rage spilled over. Jessica suddenly grabbed her chest, hyperventilating in short, dramatic gasps. "Liam, my chest. I can't breathe. Jessica!" Liam panicked. He immediately wrapped his arms around her. Chloe took a step forward, absolutely sickened by the cheap soap opera acting. "Stop faking it, Jessica. I know exactly who you are." "Enough," Liam roared. As Chloe stepped closer to expose Jessica's fake panic attack, Liam, blinded by his own toxic emotions, swung his arm out. He shoved Chloe by the shoulder hard enough to get her away from Jessica. Unprepared for the physical force, Chloe stumbled backward. Her lower back violently slammed into the sharp corner of the dining table before she collapsed onto the hardwood floor. An excruciating, blinding pain shot from her spine straight to her lower abdomen. Chloe groaned in absolute agony, clutching her stomach, her face twisting in pain. Liam froze for a split second, seeing Chloe hit the floor. A flash of regret crossed his eyes, but Martha immediately grabbed her son's arm. "Leave her. She's faking it to make you feel guilty. Look at Jessica. She's actually having a panic attack. Take her to the guest room, now." Liam turned back to Jessica, scooping her up and carrying her into the guest room without looking back once at his legal wife writhing on the floor. Martha followed them, shooting Chloe a triumphant, evil glare before slamming the guest room door shut. Chloe was left alone in the dining room. The sharp physical pain slowly dulled into a throbbing ache, but the pain in her heart had officially crystallized into a block of absolute ice. She stared at the closed guest room door. Inside, her husband was coddling his mistress, while she, his pregnant wife, was left discarded on the floor. Maria ran out from the kitchen, her face ghost white. She rushed to help Chloe up, her hands trembling violently. "Mrs. Chloe, oh my God, are you okay? Let me help you to your room." Chloe didn't answer. She stood up with Maria's help, but her eyes remained locked on the console table, where the recorder was hidden. She knew that every single second of what just happened, Liam's scream, the physical shove, Martha's confession about her real grandchild, had just been flawlessly recorded. Chloe went to her room, asking Maria to leave her alone. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she grabbed her burner phone. Her hands weren't shaking from fear anymore, but from calculated wrath. She opened a GPS tracking app synced to the SUV she had taken to the hospital. She had cross-referenced a location Liam visited daily for the past week, an ultra-exclusive luxury-gated community in the Hamptons. Chloe pulled up a photo of a document she had secretly snapped from Liam's briefcase while he was showering that morning. It was a wire transfer receipt for a down payment on a Hamptons beach house under the name Jessica Miller, with Liam listed as the financial guarantor. Chloe took a deep breath, suppressing the sharp pain in her abdomen. She opened her messages and typed a text to her father, Richard Sterling, the man she had been avoiding calling. "Dad, tomorrow at 10 a.m., can you come to the house without telling Liam? I have something to show you. It's about your grandchild's future." After sending the text, she deleted it instantly. She lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling with empty eyes. She knew inviting her father was the nuclear option that would vaporize Liam's life in seconds. But she also knew that starting today, she had no home to return to unless she destroyed this prison first. The lingering ache in her lower back from Liam's violent shove still throbbed, serving as a physical reminder of boundaries crossed and patience exhausted. Chloe curled up on her bed, staring blankly at the closed bedroom door. Through the wood, she could hear the faint sounds of Martha laughing, serving Jessica herbal chamomile tea in the living room. This wasn't her house anymore. She felt like a trespasser at a celebration of betrayal hosted by her own husband. Every time Chloe remembered Liam telling her their savings were tight, demanding she use her own personal money for baby gear because corporate cash flow was unstable, her chest felt like it was in a vice. For months, Liam forced her to budget. Yet, a buzz from her burner phone under her pillow shattered that bitter memory. It was a text from Kevin, the corporate auditor. "Chloe, I just sent the files to your secure email. Sit down before you read this. It's way worse than we thought." Chloe yanked her laptop open. Her hands shook as she typed in the encryption password Rachel had set up. When the attached PDF loaded, Chloe felt like she was being sucked into a black hole. Displayed on the screen were rows of corporate American Express transactions and reimbursement claims signed by Liam. 5-star client entertainment, dated the exact night Liam swore he pulled an all-nighter and ate ramen at his desk. Project logistics fee, billed from a high-end designer boutique, for the exact purse she saw Jessica carrying yesterday. Vendor corporate housing lease, which perfectly matched the address of the luxury Hamptons estate where Jessica now lived. The total was astronomical, tens of thousands, easily accumulating into the hundreds of thousands since Jessica got pregnant. Liam wasn't broke. He was actively embezzling from Richard Sterling's empire to pamper his mistress, while forcing his heavily pregnant wife to pinch pennies for her hospital copays. "Animal," Chloe hissed, her voice cracking in the dead silence of the room. The tears that fell now weren't from heartbreak, but from pure, unadulterated disgust at his greed. She remembered a fight 2 weeks ago. She asked Liam to buy her premium prenatal vitamins, and he yelled at her, telling her to stop blowing money on useless things. Meanwhile, on that exact same date in the ledger, Liam expensed $5,000 for a luxury VIP maternity spa package under Jessica's name. Her phone buzzed again. Kevin was calling via a secure encrypted line. "Chloe, did you see?" Kevin's voice was tense. As a man of integrity, he was absolutely revolted by his findings. Liam is incredibly sloppy. He thinks because he's the CEO's son-in-law, nobody would dare audit his division. He buried all of Jessica's expenses under the Southside Development Project budget. "Thank you, Kevin," Chloe replied, her voice freezing over. "Is this enough for criminal charges?" "More than enough, Chloe. This is grand larceny and severe corporate embezzlement. If Mr. Sterling finds out, Liam won't just be fired. He's looking at federal prison time. But be careful, your dad's company could face SEC blowback if this leaks before we contain it internally. Liam forged your dad's executive signature to bypass the finance department." Chloe went silent. A war raged in her head. Destroying Liam meant risking her father's legendary reputation, but letting Liam continue to rob her family and abuse her was a far worse insult. "I know exactly what to do, Kevin. Print physical copies of this ledger and mail them to the Upper East Side condo address I sent you yesterday. Do not send anything to this house," Chloe ordered. After hanging up, Chloe stood up. She walked to the vanity mirror, staring at her ghostly, pale face. She rubbed her belly gently. "I'm so sorry, baby. Mommy has to destroy your father so you can have an honest future." Suddenly, the bedroom door burst open without a knock. Martha marched in, still looking annoyed from the earlier drama, but her eyes held a gleam of malicious satisfaction. "Still lying around lazy, I see. Liam just called. He said he won't be coming home tonight. He has an emergency dinner with out-of-state investors. He explicitly said not to annoy him with phone calls," Martha said, dropping a massive laundry basket onto Chloe's floor. "Maria is busy prepping dinner. You iron these. Stop being a freeloader." Chloe stared at the laundry basket, then at her mother-in-law. Right on top of the pile of clothes was a silk scarf that didn't belong to her. It reeked of a perfume she knew intimately, Jessica's perfumey. Apparently, Jessica wasn't just a guest. She was already moving her belongings in, under Martha's protection. "An investor dinner, Martha?" Chloe asked, her tone entirely devoid of emotion. "Yes, major investors. So pray for your husband's success instead of giving him high blood pressure," Martha snapped before turning on her heel. Chloe knelt by the basket. She grabbed Jessica's silk scarf, crushing it in her fist until her knuckles popped. Liam's lies had reached a sickening level. That investor dinner was undeniably a romantic evening at the stolen Hamptons beach house. Chloe stood up, ignoring the iron. She walked to her closet and retrieved an heirloom jewelry box left by her late mother. Hidden beneath the velvet lining was a master key to her father's corporate safes, given to her for emergencies. She knew Liam kept confidential contract files in his home office. Down the hall files, Kevin said, were the smoking guns needed to prove the forged signatures. Moving with extreme caution, Chloe slipped out of the bedroom. She verified Martha and Maria were in the kitchen. The hallway was dead silent and suffocating. She reached Liam's home office, a room strictly off-limits to everyone, especially her. She tested the knob. Locked. But she knew Liam was a cliché who hid spare keys in obvious places. She ran her fingers along the top of their wedding portrait hanging near the door. Metal clinked. A key. She slid it into the lock and turned it quietly until it clicked. Stepping into the office, smelling of expensive cologne and cigars, she saw papers scattered across his mahogany desk. She began quietly rummaging through his drawers. She wasn't looking for cash. She wanted the corporate stamp and his hidden personal checkbooks. When she yanked open the bottom drawer, she found a thick, sealed manila envelope labeled Confidential Assets. Chloe's heart hammered. Opening this was a massive risk. If Liam came home early or Martha walked in, she had zero excuse. But the burning need to know the depth of his treason overpowered her fear. She grabbed a letter opener, sliced the seal, and pulled out the contents. It was a property deed for a luxury ski cabin in Aspen, purchased just last month, registered under Jessica Miller, with Liam listed as the joint tenant with rights of survivorship. Chloe let out a dark scoff. This wasn't an affair. This was a systematic heist to funnel her family's wealth into another woman's pockets. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Not Martha's dragging slippers, but men's leather dress shoes. Liam was home early. Chloe froze. She stared at the opened envelope and the ransacked drawer. There was no time to put everything back. On pure reflex, she shoved the envelope down her maternity dress, pressing it flat against her pregnant belly, and stood paralyzed behind the desk, just as the door swung wide open. The tension in the home office was thick enough to choke on. Liam stood in the doorway, his eyes narrowing in furious suspicion as he stared at Chloe standing rigidly behind his desk. The manila envelope holding the proof of his embezzlement burned against Chloe's skin under her dress. She could hear her own pulse roaring in her ears, cold sweat breaking out on her temples. "I asked you a question. What are you doing in here, Chloe? This is my private office. I told you never to enter without permission." Liam's voice was low but dripping with real menace. Chloe swallowed hard, struggling to control her shallow breathing. "I was looking for my prenatal medical folder, Liam. I think I left it in here when I was cleaning the other day. I need my ultrasound records." Liam took a step closer, his eyes never leaving her pale face. "Looking for a medical binder inside a locked bottom drawer? Do you think I'm an idiot?" Just as Liam reached out to grab her arm and search her, a blinding, Excruciating pain stabbed through Chloe's lower abdomen. This wasn't a Braxton Hicks contraction. This was a searing, twisting agony that made her vision instantly tunnel into blackness. Chloe let out a gut-wrenching groan, her hands instinctively grabbing the edge of the mahogany desk to keep from falling. "Liam?" "It hurts," she gasped. Liam scoffed, roughly swatting her hand away from the desk. "More drama? I barely bumped you yesterday and you acted like you were dying. What is it now? You're faking it to distract me because I caught you snooping?" Chloe couldn't speak. She collapsed onto the floor, her body violently trembling. That's when she felt something warm and wet rush down her legs. Dripping onto the pristine white tiles of the home office floor was a thick drop of dark crimson blood, followed rapidly by another. "Liam, look, blood," Chloe whimpered, sheer terror vibrating in her voice. Liam froze. He stared at the puddle of blood forming on the tiles. A flash of genuine panic finally hit his face, but a voice from the doorway immediately annihilated whatever shred of humanity he had left. "Liam, hurry up. Jessica is waiting in the car. We're going to be late for the restaurant reservation." Martha appeared in the doorway, caked in heavy makeup and wearing an extravagant designer dress. She looked at Chloe bleeding on the floor with absolute disgust. "Oh, what is this now? Bleeding all over the floor? It's probably just stress spotting because you're so negative all the time. Stop acting spoiled, Chloe." "Mom, she's hemorrhaging," Liam said, hesitating. "Oh, please. It's just a cheap trick so you cancel Jessica's baby shower," Martha barked, grabbing her son's arm and yanking him toward the door. "Listen to me. Jessica planned this gender reveal party perfectly. This is a celebration for my real grandchild. A healthy grandchild, not one that causes its mother nothing but trouble. Maria is in the back. She can deal with this. Let's go." Liam looked at Chloe one last time. On one hand, his legal wife was bleeding out on the floor, but on the other, his ambition, his mother, and the woman he actually valued were waiting. "Liam, please, take me to Dr. Evans," Chloe begged, using every last ounce of her strength. "Just order an Uber, Chloe. I really can't cancel this event. It's about respecting Jessica and her family," Liam said with chilling apathy. He turned his back on her, following his mother out to the driveway. The sound of the car engine revving and driving away was the most agonizing sound Chloe had ever heard. She was abandoned, bleeding to death on the floor, while they went to a party. Maria ran in, screaming when she saw the blood, and frantically dialed 911, as she didn't know how to drive. In the sterile, freezing VIP wing of the hospital, Chloe lay hooked up to an IV. Dr. Evans had just finished stabilizing her. Luckily, the hemorrhage wasn't catastrophic, and the baby's heartbeat was stable. But his warning this time was absolute. "Chloe, this is your body's final warning. If you suffer another emotional shock like this, I cannot guarantee this baby will survive. Where the hell is your husband, doctor?" Evans demanded, his anger barely contained. Chloe just shook her head slowly, tears sliding sideways into her hospital pillow. "He's busy, doctor." "Doctor." Evans let out a furious sigh, patted her shoulder sympathetically, and left the room. Silence consumed her. On the TV mounted in the corner, a local society Instagram page Chloe followed updated its story. By cruel coincidence or sheer tragedy, a photo appeared. Liam, Martha, and Jessica, laughing joyously at an ultra-exclusive Michelin star restaurant. Behind them was a massive banner. Gender reveal and baby shower for Jessica. Chloe's heart shattered into microscopic dust. While she was fighting to keep her baby alive alone, her husband was popping champagne for another woman, using money Chloe knew with absolute certainty was stolen from her father. With shaking hands, Chloe grabbed her phone. She scrolled to her father's contact. For years, she had maintained Liam's pristine image to Richard Sterling. She swallowed all of Martha's abuse so her father wouldn't be disappointed in his choice of son-in-law. But tonight, her dignity as a wife and her fierce instinct as a mother refused to compromise anymore. When the ringing stopped and Richard's deep, authoritative voice answered, Chloe's dam completely broke. "Hi, Chloe, sweetheart. Why are you calling so late?" Richard's voice was warm and full of paternal love. "Dad," Chloe sobbed. Her wails echoed in the empty room. Dad, please help me. Chloe, what's wrong? Where are you? Richard's tone instantly morphed into high-alert corporate ruthlessness, mixed with a father's terror. I'm at the hospital, Dad. I was hemorrhaging. And Liam, he left me bleeding on the floor to go celebrate another woman's pregnancy. Chloe forced the words out between violent sobs. Richard went dead silent on the other end. But Chloe could hear his breathing heavy, furious, like a dormant volcano about to erupt. Chloe, listen to me. I am coming there right now. But I need you to be completely honest. Is Liam having an affair? And what do you mean another woman's pregnancy? Jessica, Dad, my best friend. Liam is using her to replace me. And that's not all. Chloe wiped her eyes. Her voice suddenly dropped an octave, turning cold and vengeful. Liam has been embezzling from the company, Dad. He forged your signature to buy Jessica a mansion and diamonds. I have all the evidence. I have recordings, Dad. There was a long, terrifying silence on the line. Wait for me there, kiddo. Do not hang up until I walk through that door, Richard finally spoke. And remember, starting this exact second, you do not refer to that man as your husband. He is dead to this family. Chloe hung up the phone. A massive boulder lifted off her chest, but simultaneously, she knew the real hurricane had just made landfall. She pulled the manila envelope out from under her hospital pillow. With a blank, determined stare, she texted Rachel. Rachel, execute Plan B. We aren't just filing for divorce. I want him stripped to the bone. Make sure he can't even afford a t-shirt when we're done with him. Chloe closed her eyes, letting the lingering pain in her abdomen serve as a permanent reminder. Starting tomorrow, the soft, obedient Chloe was dead. She was the storm that was going to wipe Liam's existence off the map. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor in the VIP suite was monotonous, as if counting down the last shreds of patience Chloe possessed. The sharp smell of bleach and the stiff, cold hospital sheets no longer made her feel alienated. Ironically, she felt safer here than in the house she had built with tears and wasted devotion. The image of Liam laughing at the Michelin star restaurant with Jessica and Martha stuck to the walls of her mind like a black stain that couldn't be scrubbed off. Chloe rubbed her belly, feeling the faint kicks of her baby, as if the child was equally exhausted from this storm. The door to the suite opened with a soft but commanding push. Richard Sterling walked in. The middle-aged billionaire, who normally radiated calm, untouchable authority, now had deep, terrifying lines of absolute fury carved into his face. The sharp clack of his Italian leather shoes against the granite floor created an echo that made the room feel dangerously tense. When his eyes landed on his only daughter, lying pale with an IV in her arm, Richard's broad shoulders visibly shook. Chloe. Richard's voice was low, trembling violently as he suppressed an ocean of rage. Chloe couldn't look him in the eye. A wave of profound shame washed over her. She felt like she had failed to protect her own dignity and her father's honor by letting Liam trample on them for so long. A small sob escaped her chapped lips. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I lied to you for so long," she whispered through her tears. Richard sat on the edge of the bed, grabbing Chloe's ice-cold hands. He kissed her forehead with the tenderness of a grieving father, but his eyes were locked onto the faint bloodstain that had soaked through her clothes earlier. "Stop it, Chloe. Do not apologize. I am the one who should be begging for forgiveness for not realizing the golden boy I promoted was a rabid dog attacking my own daughter." Chloe pulled the manila envelope from under her pillow and handed it to Richard with shaking hands. "It's all in here, Dad. Not just his affair with Jessica, but all the proof of how he used corporate funds to spoil her. Liam robbed you through me." Richard ripped the envelope open. His eyes scanned every page of the ledgers, the property deeds, and the photos of Liam and Jessica's PDA. The more pages he flipped, the redder his face became. His jaw locked so tight, the veins in his neck bulged. He was looking at company money he built from the ground up being funneled to fund a mistress's luxury lifestyle, while his daughter was told to budget her hospital co-pays. Right at that moment, Rachel walked into the room, followed closely by Kevin. Rachel was in full battle armor, carrying a sleek leather briefcase stuffed with legal drafts. Kevin held a laptop containing the raw data dumps from the company's internal servers. "Mr. Sterling, I have the preliminary drafts ready," Rachel stated in a frigid, professional tone. She shot Chloe a look of deep sympathy before turning back to the CEO. Based on Chloe's evidence and Kevin's initial audit, this isn't just a messy divorce. This is criminal corporate fraud, embezzlement, and grand larceny. Richard stood up. He no longer looked like a heartbroken father. He looked like a CEO preparing to execute a hostile takeover. He stared dead at Rachel. "File the divorce papers right now, Rachel. I don't want a single asset left in Liam's name. Make sure he walks out of this marriage with nothing but the suit on his back. Do not give him an inch to breathe." Rachel nodded sharply. "I am filing an emergency ex parte motion with the Supreme Court of New York tomorrow morning, so he can't liquidate or move any hidden assets." Richard then turned to Kevin. "Kevin, get back to headquarters tonight. I am granting you God-tier access to my internal audit systems. Compile a flawless forensic report of Liam's expenses over the last 2 years. Do not miss a single cent. I want every dollar he stole to be a bullet that executes his career permanently." "Understood, Mr. Sterling. I've already locked him out of the back-end servers so he can't delete his digital footprint tomorrow," Kevin replied firmly, giving Chloe a subtle, supportive nod. Chloe listened to all of this with violently mixed emotions. There was an overwhelming sense of relief that she was no longer fighting alone. Yet, her soul felt hollow. She was actively orchestrating the annihilation of the man she had once loved with all her heart. A war raged inside her between deep-seated hatred and the mourning of the family she dreamed of having. But when she recalled the agonizing pain of bleeding on the floor while Liam walked out to go to a party, the pity evaporated, replaced by absolute frost. "Dad," Chloe called out softly. "What about Martha?" Richard turned around, his eyes flashing with lethal intent. "That woman is going to face the consequences of blessing this treason. Every luxury in that house, the cars, the property itself, it is all legally owned by Sterling Enterprises. If Liam is terminated, they have no legal right to reside there. Let them go find their luxury in the gutter." After Rachel and Kevin left to execute their orders, the room fell silent again. Richard turned off the harsh overhead lights, leaving only a dim bedside lamp. He sat back down next to Chloe, ensuring she was resting. "Go to sleep, Chloe. Tomorrow is the beginning of the end for them. I'll stay right here," he whispered. But Chloe couldn't sleep. She grabbed her phone from the nightstand. There were several texts from Liam, sent just minutes ago. He sent a photo of an expensive steak dinner with the caption, "Meeting, just wrapped up. So exhausted. Don't be annoying tonight. Just go to sleep. I'll be home tomorrow unless something urgent comes up." Chloe stared at the text with a terrifying, bitter smile. Liam still thought she was stupid. Liam still felt invincible in his web of lies. Chloe took a deep breath, suppressing a wave of nausea. Her fingers danced across the screen. She didn't curse at him, nor did she cry. Instead, she typed a short, utterly flat reply. "Okay, Liam. It's fine. Get some rest. I'm feeling very calm now. I've handed all my affairs over to the right people." She hit send. She knew that text would make Liam feel secure and unsuspicious. A perfectly laid trap to keep him comfortable until the termination papers and divorce summons slammed onto his desk. Chloe turned off her phone and shoved it under her pillow, letting the darkness of the night cover the machinery of revenge that was now entirely unstoppable. The morning in the VIP hospital suite was eerily quiet. But inside Chloe's head, a Category 5 hurricane was raging. After giving her father's executive assistant the order to cut off access to the house last night, Chloe felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the detonation she had wired herself. There was a strange sense of victory, but deep down, the wound still throbbed. Mourning the death of the man she loved, replaced by a monster she now had to socially and professionally slaughter, Chloe stared at her phone clock. 9 a.m. Right about now, Liam would be strutting into the corporate office, feeling like the crown prince of her father's empire. Chloe gripped the hospital sheets, picturing his face when he realized the entire foundation of his stolen luxury was about to crumble into dust. At the Sterling Enterprises headquarters in Manhattan, Liam strutted into the grand lobby wearing a $5,000 bespoke suit paid for by the logistics budget he embezzled. He ignored the friendly greeting from the receptionist and swiped into the executive elevator. In his head, Chloe's little hospital stunt yesterday was just a bump in the road. He was confident that with a little gaslighting and sweet-talking Richard, he'd have everything back under control. But when the elevator doors slid open on the penthouse executive floor, the atmosphere was completely off. The usual bustling energy was gone. Several senior VPs were standing in the hallway, looking tense, whispering and side-eyeing him as he walked past. "Liam, you are requested in the main glass boardroom immediately." "Mr. Sterling is waiting," the head secretary said, her voice completely devoid of the usual corporate politeness. Liam adjusted his tie, puffing out his chest. "Excellent. I needed to brief him on the Southside expansion anyway." Liam pushed open the heavy glass doors of the boardroom overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Inside, Richard sat at the head of the massive oak table. To his right sat Kevin, holding a massive stack of financial binders. To his left sat Rachel, looking lethal with a red legal folder. Lined up on the side were the heads of HR, legal, and the board of directors, all staring at him with stone-cold faces. "Dad, what's going on? Why is everyone here?" Liam asked, trying to sound casual, though his heart began to hammer wildly against his ribs. Richard didn't answer. He just stared at Liam with a gaze so intensely freezing, Liam felt the oxygen get sucked out of the room. Richard gestured to Kevin. Kevin stood up. His voice echoed clearly in the dead-silent room. "Based on an emergency forensic audit conducted over the last 48 hours, we have uncovered irrefutable evidence of corporate embezzlement totaling $4 million, systematically siphoned through the Southside development accounts. The funds were wired to multiple offshore accounts and shell LLCs under the name Jessica Miller, utilized to purchase luxury real estate and personal assets." Liam's face went sheet white. "Kevin, what the hell is this? That's a complete lie. Dad, don't listen to this traitor." "Enough!" Richard roared. His voice boomed so loud the executives outside the glass flinched. Richard stood up, grabbing a thick envelope of wire transfer receipts and hurling it directly at Liam's chest. "Do not ever call me Dad again. In this room, I am the CEO looking at a pathetic thief trying to save his own skin." Rachel opened her red folder. "In addition to grand larceny, we have documented evidence of severe morality clause violations, utilizing company assets to facilitate an illicit affair, thereby bringing severe reputational risk to Sterling Enterprises." Richard walked around the table, getting dangerously close to Liam's face. "Today, this exact second, Liam, you are terminated with cause from every position within this corporation. I will personally ensure every firm on Wall Street knows exactly what you did. You will never work in this industry again. Do not expect severance." Liam stumbled backward, gripping the back of a leather chair. But you can't just fire me like this. There's a protocol." "The protocol is you get escorted out of my building right now," Richard cut him off. "And one more thing, that BMW you drive, the estate you and your mother live in, those are corporate assets assigned to your executive title. Since you have no title, those assets are seized immediately. My private security team is at the house right now, locking it down and seizing the vehicles." Liam felt the floor drop out from under him. The image of Jessica and Martha enjoying the luxury of that house suddenly morphed into utter panic. "Mr. Sterling, please, not the house. My mother is there." "Your mother has exactly 30 minutes to pack her clothes into garbage bags before the property is bolted shut for an asset audit," Richard stated, with zero mercy. "Now, hand over your corporate badge and your car keys in front of the entire floor watching through this glass." Humiliated, Liam shakily handed over his keys and ID. He was escorted out of the boardroom not as a vice president, but as a total loser, head bowed in disgrace. Back at the hospital, Chloe received a voice memo from her father detailing the termination. Chloe listened to it with shaky breaths. She pictured arrogant Liam having to walk or take the subway, stripped of his fake billionaire persona. But instead of total satisfaction, Chloe felt a new wave of dread. She knew her husband's nature. A cornered Liam was a dangerous Liam. Her mind flashed to Martha and Jessica, who were likely screaming bloody murder at the house right now. Chloe looked down at her belly. "Mommy won't let them touch you, baby," she whispered. A conflict waged inside her. She wanted to run, to fly to Europe with her dad and forget this ever happened. But a darker urge pushed forward. She needed to see the finale of this play with her own eyes. She needed to make sure Martha didn't destroy any of her late mother's heirlooms before the house was cleared. Chloe pressed the call button. When the nurse walked in, Chloe put on a calm but resolute face. "Nurse, please call Dr. Evans. Tell him I feel much stronger, and I want to sign an AMA, against medical advice, discharge form this afternoon." The nurse looked hesitant. "But ma'am, Dr. Evans said you need at least 48 hours of observation." "I know the risks," Chloe replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. "But I have something I have to finish before the sun sets. Get the doctor." Chloe knew leaving the hospital while unstable was reckless and endangered her pregnancy. But she felt that if she didn't oversee the eviction, Liam or Martha would retaliate. She chose to face the hurricane head-on. Ignoring her exhaustion, Chloe began packing her small bag, moving quickly, occasionally stopping to catch her breath. She had decided to return to the battlefield, a move that would put her face to face with a man who had just lost everything. Chloe's steps felt feather-light, yet incredibly fragile, as she walked back down the hospital corridor, having just returned from watching the eviction from the safety of her father's tinted SUV. Even though Dr. Evans had begged her not to leave, Chloe needed to witness the sandcastle Liam and Martha built crumble into the ocean. The scene from an hour ago at the house was burned into her brain. Burly, private security guards hauling out corporate furniture, Martha screaming hysterically as her silk dresses were tossed into cardboard boxes, and the wealthy neighbors whispering and pointing from their lawns. Chloe sat back on her hospital bed, staring out the window as a light drizzle began to fall over the city. Her body was beyond exhausted, but her soul was violently churning. She felt like a victor standing on a pile of rubble, but that rubble was her own marriage. A sharp sting of grief slipped through the satisfaction, mourning the years and loyalty wasted on a man who never valued her. Suddenly, the door to her suite was shoved open violently. Chloe jolted, her hands instinctively flying to protect her swollen belly. Liam stood in the doorway. He looked light years away from the polished executive he had been that morning. His expensive white shirt was yellowed with sweat and wrinkled, his eyes were sunken, and he was no longer wearing his custom Italian loafers. He looked like a piece of human garbage. Behind him, nurses were shouting, trying to hold him back, but he ignored them. "Chloe!" Liam's voice was hoarse, shaking with pure desperation. Chloe stared at her husband with a gaze so freezing it was as if she were looking at a stranger who had walked into the wrong room. "Get out! Liam, you have no right to be here." Liam didn't leave. Instead, he stumbled forward and suddenly collapsed onto the floor. The sound of his knees slamming against the hospital tiles echoed loudly, making Chloe flinch. Liam crawled to the foot of her bed, trying to grab the edge of her hospital blanket. "Chloe, please. Just listen to me," Liam sobbed, tears streaming down his face, staining the pristine white sheets. "Everything is gone. Jessica." "She left me." Chloe let out a cynical scoff, though her chest felt like it was in a vice. "Oh, so after your mistress dumps you, you suddenly remember you have a wife in the hospital? She's evil, Chloe." The second she found out I was fired and the bank froze the Hamptons house, she called an Uber. She packed up all the designer bags and jewelry I bought her and said she refused to have a baby with a broke felon. She left me on the side of the road like literal trash. Liam wept hysterically, his shoulders shaking. "I realize now, it was always you. Only you loved me for who I really am." Chloe stared down at the top of Liam's head. A wave of pure nausea washed over her. "Loved you for who you are? You're delusional, Liam. I loved you because I thought you were an honorable man. Now I know you're just a parasite who used my father's name to fund a prostitute. You didn't love me for who I am. You loved the corporate credit card my father gave you through me." "No, Chloe, I made a mistake. I was manipulated by Jessica and my mother's nagging. Please, drop the divorce. Think of our baby. The baby needs a father. I swear I'll change. I'll start from the bottom. Just please don't leave me. Don't let me drown like this." Liam reached out to grab her hand, but Chloe snatched it away as if he were covered in acid. "Manipulated by your mother?" Chloe let out a dark, bitter laugh that cut through the sterile room. "Your mother is currently sitting in a police precinct because she tried to assault a security guard during the eviction. You two are exactly the same. You saw me as an ATM, not a human being, And as for this baby, Chloe gently rubbed her belly, her eyes narrowing into lethal slits. My child will be infinitely better off without a father who steals from their grandfather. Liam looked up. His tear-soaked face was pathetic. Chloe, I'm begging you. Your dad froze my personal accounts too. I don't have a single dollar to buy dinner tonight. I had to walk 3 miles from the gate to get here because I didn't have money for the subway after they took the BMW. Do you want me to starve on the street? Seeing the man she once worshipped crying over dinner money, Chloe's heart shattered and turned into solid diamonds simultaneously. She saw how incredibly small Liam's soul was. He wasn't crying because he broke her heart. He was crying because his luxury was gone. His ego only shattered when his wallet did, not when he saw his wife bleeding out on the floor. Whether you starve or freeze on the street is none of my business anymore. Liam, Chloe said, her voice dropping to a terrifyingly calm whisper. I almost died in that house because of the stress you and your mother put me through, and you went to a Michelin-star restaurant. Feel what I felt. Be alone, empty, and unprotected. Liam kept begging, hugging the metal leg of the hospital bed like it was a life raft in a hurricane. Chloe, please, just one more chance. Right then, the door swung open again. Richard Sterling walked in, flanked by 2 massive hospital security guards. Richard didn't need to say a word. His murderous glare was enough to make Liam shake in terror. Drag him out, Richard ordered simply. Liam thrashed. He screamed Chloe's name as the guards hoisted him up by his armpits. Chloe, I'm your husband. Don't let them do this. Chloe. Liam's screams faded down the corridor, leaving a haunting silence in the room. Chloe closed her eyes, letting a single tear fall. The final tear for her past. Richard walked over, wrapping a protective arm around his daughter's shoulders. It's over, kiddo. It's finally over, her father whispered. But Chloe knew it wasn't. She felt a strange pang in her stomach, not the pain of a hemorrhage, but a strong adrenaline rush that kept her awake. She stared at the duffel bag she had packed earlier. While her father stepped out to handle the final discharge paperwork, Chloe grabbed her phone. She didn't text Rachel about the court date. Instead, she opened an anonymous text message she had received while Liam was begging. It was a photo of Jessica standing in front of a shady abortion clinic on the outskirts of the city. Chloe froze. Her ice-cold heart was suddenly thrown into a massive moral dilemma. Jessica was a traitor, yes, but the baby in her womb was the half-sibling of the child Chloe was carrying. Chloe swung her legs over the bed, slipped on her hospital grippy socks, and walked toward the door. She knew her dad would be furious. She knew Dr. Evans would lose his mind. But there was one last thing she had to verify before completely closing the book on Liam and his web of sins. She couldn't let another tragedy happen under the shadow of her family's name, even if it meant confronting her worst enemy one last time. Chloe stepped out of the room, dodging her father's security detail, and headed for the elevator with steady, secretive steps. The rain had stopped outside the hospital windows, leaving the scent of wet asphalt drifting through the ventilation system. To Chloe, the smell wasn't just the end of a storm. It was the scent of a cleansed soul. After weeks of living under the suffocating grip of lies and emotional abuse that nearly killed her unborn child, she felt as if her fragile old skin had shed, replaced by a cold, razor-sharp awakening. Chloe sat in a wheelchair, pushed by Maria, the only person from her past in that house who remained fiercely loyal. Richard was waiting in the lobby below with a motorcade of black SUVs ready to take her back to her childhood estate in the Hamptons. But before Chloe could permanently leave this hospital corridor, the figures she despised most appeared at the far end of the hall. Liam. He looked utterly destroyed. His white button-down was stained with sweat and dirt. His eyes were hollow, and he had clearly lost his mind. Behind him stood Martha, her face completely stripped of its usual arrogance. The older woman was wearing a faded, cheap dress, clutching a plastic grocery bag, the meager remnants of the luxury they managed to grab before the corporate locks were changed. Seeing Chloe, Liam sprinted forward. He threw himself to the ground again, bowing right in front of Chloe's wheelchair, blocking her path. Chloe, please, just listen to me one last time, Liam whimpered, his voice raspy and shaking. I have nothing left. Jessica. She actually aborted the baby and ran off with the rest of the jewelry. I have no home, no job, and everyone on Wall Street is laughing at me. I'm begging you. Drop the lawsuit. I'll be your slave for the rest of my life if you just give me a roof over my head." Martha shuffled forward. The face that used to look down on Chloe like dirt now contorted into a pathetic, sickening plea. "Chloe, sweetie, please. I'm an old woman. I can't survive living in a roach-infested studio apartment. Forgive us. You're a good girl. Richard didn't raise you to be vindictive, did he?" Chloe stared down at them from her wheelchair. Inside, a violent storm raged not of pity, but of profound, overwhelming disgust. She remembered hitting the floor after Liam shoved her. She remembered Martha's voice calling Jessica the ideal daughter-in-law while Chloe bled. Chloe reached her hand out not to stroke Liam's head, but to physically pry his trembling, sweaty fingers off her wheelchair footrest. Her movements were so calm, almost like someone taking out the trash. "Liam," Chloe's voice was crystal clear and completely devoid of emotion. "You ask for forgiveness. I have already forgiven you in my prayers, so that my path forward isn't blocked by the weight of resentment." She paused, locking eyes with Liam's desperate, pleading gaze. "But do not misunderstand. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. You say you are destroyed because you lost your job and your mansion. To me, you were destroyed that day in this very corridor. When you held Jessica and let your mother insult me, right then and there, my respect for you as a husband died. And once respect dies, no amount of love can resurrect it." Chloe then shifted her cold gaze to Martha. "And to you, Martha, you're right. My dad didn't raise me to be vindictive, but he did raise me to know when to stop giving my heart to heartless people. Go enjoy your golden years with your precious golden boy. Isn't that what you always wanted? Just the two of you, without me ruining the picture?" "Chloe, how can you be so heartless watching us become homeless?" Martha shrieked, instantly reverting to her true, toxic, selfish nature the second her manipulation failed. Chloe didn't respond. She signaled Maria to push the wheelchair forward, rolling right past them. Liam kept screaming her name, sobbing hysterically on the hospital floor, becoming a public spectacle, a man who lost the world because of his own bottomless greed. 1 month later, Chloe stood on the balcony of her father's sprawling Hamptons estate, staring out at the massive rose gardens. Her physical health had stabilized, and the baby in her womb was kicking fiercely, as if infusing its mother with newfound strength. Richard walked onto the balcony carrying a mug of warm milk. Rachel just called, "Chloe." The judge signed the final decree. "You are officially divorced," and all of Liam's claims to the joint assets were thrown out thanks to Kevin's embezzlement audit, Richard said, a tone of immense relief in his voice. Chloe sipped the milk, feeling a profound peace she hadn't felt in years. "Thank you, Dad. Without you, I probably would have given up. You're the strong one, Chloe. You chose to fight back." Richard patted her shoulder. "Did you hear about them? I heard they're living in a rundown trailer park in upstate New York. Liam is working as a day laborer at a shipping dock just to buy his mother groceries." Chloe fell silent for a moment. She remembered the report from the private investigator she had hired to ensure Liam wasn't a physical threat. Liam, who used to obsess over designer suits, now broke his back, lifting crates every day. Martha, who used to hoard diamonds, was now the crazy lady arguing with neighbors over the shared water lines in the sweltering trailer park. Their lives had hit rock bottom, the exact equivalent of the pain they had inflicted on Chloe. But Chloe's focus wasn't there anymore. She set her mug down and picked up a legal folder she had received from the family trust attorney that afternoon. "Dad, I have a plan," Chloe said softly, her eyes locked on the documents. "What plan, sweetheart?" "I want to transfer all the liquidated assets I got from the divorce settlement into a newly established charity foundation for single mothers." Chloe didn't want to touch a single dollar that had ever been associated with Liam's betrayal. She took a deep breath. "But there's one more thing. I am legally removing Liam's last name from this baby's birth certificate. The baby will take the Sterling name." Richard was stunned. Changing the surname was a massive legal move that essentially erased Liam from the bloodline entirely. Socially, it was a risky move that would spark endless gossip among the New York elite. But spiritually, it was Chloe's declaration of independence. "Are you sure, Chloe? Liam might try to sue for paternity rights someday if he finds out," Richard asked cautiously. Chloe rubbed her belly. A faint, Mysterious smile graced her lips. Let him try to sue a ghost on paper. His father is a man who never existed. I have the medical records proving he provided zero support during the pregnancy and committed domestic abuse. I will make sure this child never knows the man who almost killed them before they were even born. Chloe picked up the solid gold pen on the patio table and signed the asset transfer and the name change petition. This act was fraught with legal risks, but to her, it was the final, deadbolt lock on the door to her past. As the sun began to set over the Atlantic Ocean, Chloe stared at the horizon with a renewed spirit. She no longer felt like a betrayed, pathetic wife. She was Chloe Sterling, a mother ready to wage war against the world to protect her own universe. In the distance, she could almost hear the echoes of Liam's miserable sobs in his cramped trailer. But that sound was just the wind now, entirely incapable of touching her heart. Chloe walked back inside the mansion, leaving the shadows of her past behind, ready to welcome the dawn that now belonged entirely to her. Through Chloe's story, we learn that boundless loyalty to the wrong person is just a fast track to self-destruction. Never be afraid to cut off the dead weight that hurts you, because ending a toxic relationship is not a failure. It is the first step in saving your dignity and a future that is worth so much more. Hopefully, Chloe's courage in taking back her justice inspires us all to protect our self-worth above everything else. Thank you for following this emotional journey to the very end. Warm regards, and see you in the next story of life.